And good morning, everybody, or maybe good afternoon or good evening if you're listening to this on a recording or in a different time zone. And thanks for joining the first of a series of 5 Pix4D webinars about how drones are being used in the construction industry. And we decided to do this series of webinars mainly because I think drones are causing a lot of excitement in construction. At many of the shows and the events that we attend at the moment, we're hearing people talk about drones a lot. And we really want to sort of educate the market a little bit about how we can use drones and really explain to you how we feel drones can be used and give you benefit and value within the industry. And I think the best way to do that, of course, is not for me to tell you about that, but is to have one of our customers explain about their experience. And we're pretty happy and I guess privileged to have Harvey GSL from Costain will start speaking to you in about less than 10 minutes about his experience with using drones in the construction industry. I think that's really the key part of this presentation is to hear Harvey explain exactly how he's getting benefit and maybe some of the pain points he went through and some of the sort of unique parts of what he's doing as well. And just so a very simple housekeeping thing here, we have some questions. You can ask questions during the actual presentation itself, or if you want to at the end, we actually have a live questions session at the end where you can type your questions into the dashboard and you can therefore ask us that way. So quite a simple agenda today. We're going to start off by really going through just the basic introduction to drones and photogrammetry, get us all up to speed so we can all talk about the same thing. And then I'll just go through a few examples of some of the applications and deliverables that we get from our technology. I think it's worth focusing more on the actual results that we get and how they're used rather than the technology that gets us there. And then I'll hand over to Harvey, who'll talk about his experience with using drones in this market. And I'll just quickly summarize what the technologies available. And then we'll open up on the question and answer session. So let's get started with the first section on drones and photogrammetry. But I think it's fair just to give a real background here. You know, people have been surveying in the construction industry for many thousands of years, I guess 5,000 or 6,000 years worth of surveying history in construction, and things started with sort of using levels and floodlights, and in the modern day, I guess, total stations, and now we're getting used to things like GPS or GNSS, I guess, and laser scanning. And it's worth also pointing out that photogrammetry is certainly not new at all in industrial applications. Photogrammetry is not simply being used from an aerial perspective to do sort of large landscape mapping. It's been used for close range or terrestrial photogrammetry for many years as well. And typically the photos up to now have been taken from handheld or tripod-based cameras. And I think it's fair to say it was a pretty complicated and computer-heavy kind of application before, and a specialist would have to be there. You need to be an expert in taking the photos and certainly an expert in producing the results. And the software itself was pretty sophisticated and not really accessible to the common industry. So you had to be a specialist in photogrammetry, in the image capture. I think, you know, recently in the last 5 or 6 years, things have changed a lot with photogrammetry and acceptance by industry, because I think this is mainly due to 2 factors from my perspective. One's going to be the increase in computer power we've now got, particularly with the cloud. So whereas before having a bank of machines to sort of process your data into results was necessary, or at least certainly 30, 40 years ago, having very expensive, finely calibrated mechanical equipment to do this, like such as the stereo plotters. And that's really changed now. So particularly with cloud computing, you can go away now and produce these results very quickly. And also, I think advances in image recognition and computer vision have become involved with photogrammetry to really help people produce these kind of results in a very different way than simply overlapping stereo pairs. So, speaking technically, I think the introduction of like non-convergent multi-image photogrammetry is something that's really been enhanced by the computer vision specialists and the image recognition technologies that are now being applied to that, which is, I guess, where Pix4D fits into this picture of photogrammetry for modern day usage. And, looking at drones as well, I think what's very interesting is the increase in the use of photogrammetry has really converged with the acceptance of drones in industry. It's been a very interesting crossover of technologies. And I think the drone technology has really grown out of a niche hobby for consumers and has now really moved to professional usage. I mean, before, drones were something people would build themselves in their garage and they'd play with at the weekend. Now, I guess the number of drones that appeared under the Christmas tree this year was probably very large. I think people are buying drones now as presents and as a really sort of hobby thing to play with in their houses and in the fields near their houses. But certainly drones have become much more increased in the sort of professional market. But in a different way. Not only do you have very expensive, self-built drones, but also you can buy a consumer drone for certainly less than €5,000 these days, which is perfectly acceptable for the technology. And this has really formed a great acceptance of the technology in the industry. And I think certainly in construction, they're becoming more and more common. And it's important to think about construction and drones because construction is traditionally a very, very resilient industry for accepting new technology. And the interesting thing is if you read the various reports that come through from the market analysts, they feel that drone use in construction is one of the biggest growth areas of 2018. And why is that? I think there's two reasons. I think one of the big reasons for that is the growth of BIM. And I think the BIM market and the BIM sort of workflows being adopted by companies now is becoming more and more and more. I mean, most people I'm speaking to about drones and photogrammetry, I'm also speaking to about how the data is being used in their BIM workflows and processes. And why is BIM becoming so popular? And you can argue it's because the technology for BIM also is providing people with bigger and better ways to realize complex projects in the shortest amount of time with the lowest budget. But I think also it's mainly due to legislation. And when the government started insisting that projects must be executed under BIM, certain levels of BIM 1 or 2, then people are really listening to this, and the construction companies themselves are having to adhere to this legislation. So just to summarise, from my perspective, really why drones are a great advantage to the construction industry. I think I've listed here kind of 4 bullet points I feel are some of the advantages for using drones in the industry. Having no access to the site is actually quite important. Not having a surveyor or a BIM integration manager or somebody else doing checking or certification walking over the site, it's a big advantage here. I mean, health and safety is probably one of the most important things that construction companies measure themselves by and are measured by these days. And of course, having less people on site is a huge advantage here for them. I think the second point is that the equipment is very affordable now, whereas many years ago you probably would be investing tens of thousands of euros plus the actual expertise you need to have to fly these pieces of equipment. Nowadays, you can go to a website and buy these pieces of equipment very affordably. I mean, the idea for most of the construction companies I speak to is they'll have a drone on every site, and the drones will be really kind of consumer level drones with a good camera. I think the third point is very important as well. Traditionally, getting results from a surveyor immediately is probably quite difficult. I mean, obviously, you can use different techniques such as GNSS, or you can use a laser scanner on site and get very perfect 3D point clouds, for instance, of the site. But there's an investment there in time as well, that you cannot simply fly the drone and get the results within half an hour, which is possible with modern technology. You'd certainly have to go away and spend some time processing the results. I think the last point is also very important, and maybe an indicator of why drones have become more important and acceptable in the construction industry. What you're getting is something that's very intuitive to look at. So certainly with the ortho photos we're producing, you've got a very intuitive, top-down, photorealistic, orthographic view. And this is something which most construction people are familiar to look at and familiar to work with. They don't get worried or scared that this is a complicated way to interpret their site. It's very visual. And of course, the 3D data we're producing as well is becoming extremely acceptable in the industry. I mean, this is not just because everyone's using CAD, but people are seeing 3D both in the media and in gaming, and having a 3D visual of your site is extremely normal and something people can accept. Let me just spend a few minutes going through some applications and how people are using drone data. Then I'll pass over to Harvey to get a report back from the customer on how they're using things. One of the basic deliverables we get from a drone flight would be a 3D visual model. And you see here on the screen something that's not particularly construction related. It's some houses and buildings next to a road with some fields around it. But this is probably a typical sort of topographic or land surveying deliverable, something that GIS people probably want to use as well. But you can imagine that in construction, it could be very useful for feasibility studies and during the planning phases, and maybe produce some base mapping before the construction phase starts. And earthworks were probably one of the first ever applications of drones in construction, which became an immediate success because the commercial value is immediate. So rather than walking over a stockpile with your GPS or total survey prism, you're actually flying. So it's a much easier and safer way to capture the data. And also gathering data on a stockpile from an aerial perspective really gives you a proper view of the complexity of the top of the stockpile and therefore more accurate results. So I think it was a very quick win for drones in construction was to use them in the earthworks industry. And the real benefits now that are coming from, I think most of you on the call will agree that the benefits of seeing an image like this on a daily or every few days basis is incredibly valuable for the construction industry. So these ortho photos you're seeing now are highly visual. Obviously they're orthographic, so they're compatible with your CAD or BIM systems, and they're completely scaled and geo-referenced, so you can make measurements from these. They're really like kind of a fully scaled orthographic photograph. And this can be used for day-to-day operational planning on site. It's a great communication tool. I mean, you can imagine showing this to somebody and explain to them about site access and safety areas and danger zones and where to work next and where to lay down equipment and these things. It's a very good tool. And in fact, it's very interesting when I visit some of my customers and see them having their site meeting every morning, and on a big TV screen, they often will show these kind of orthographics from the day before and use that as their communications tool to explain how today's work packages will be issued and any particularly interesting points from the previous day's work as well could be discussed. So it really is becoming a great communications tool, just at the operational level. But if you extend this to looking at the fact we're getting data on a regular basis, and here you see a sequence of 6 days worth of data. And I mean, we all know construction sites are constantly changing environments, so it's important to track these changes, not just to pick up scheduling errors, but also to work out best practice and these ideas. So having this kind of timeline of information for the construction site is invaluable. I mean, these are evolving environments that you need to have the data for. I mean, one of the biggest benefits that we've seen from some of our customers using this data, which was something which was surprising to me, was that actually going back and checking the status of a site on certain dates for more legal or contractual reasons has become very important. So being able to go back, for instance, the 10th of May and settle an argument you have with a contractor about whether some rebar was positioned or not on that date, or whether concrete could be poured that day or not, is something that's probably changed the way that the contractors are behaving with their contractor managers. And just give one small example of how these things really are becoming money saving. So the value is not just in health and safety and convenience. There's also some real euros, dollars, or pounds to be saved with this kind of technology if you're regularly checking your site. And this is a real example from a customer. You can see they've got they can see on the 10th of May that the rebar is not quite complete. The meshing is not complete before the concrete pour. On the 11th of May, it's complete. Everyone's happy. We can go ahead and you can analyze the formwork locations and the exact density of the rebar in different locations. But the interesting thing, this is a real story here from the customer, who I guess doesn't want to be explained who it is, but you can see there's two, and the small blue circles on the right-hand side on the 11th of May. These are polythene masks which are used to create a hole in the concrete, and therefore it's a penetration which the downpipe can go through. And two of them are there on the south part of that concrete formwork, but the one in the north is not there. There's a third one which is missing, and this probably would never have been picked up. And the consequences, you can all imagine, would be that the concrete would be poured and there'd be no penetration to the concrete in that particular part of the slab. And maybe 3 or 4 months later, the guys will arrive with their stainless steel ducting to put the heating system in, and there's no hole, so they'll go away. The hole has to be created. There has to be new concrete feathered in. This creates certification issues and probably delays the commissioning of the heating system, which can't be installed on time. And therefore, there's a budget and a schedule consequence. And also, I guess, there's a safety there's some safety issues here, and also, I guess, there's the reputation of the contractor or the project owners of this as well. Estimation here was something like a €15,000 cost if they didn't put this third mask in place before the concrete was poured. Which sounds like a lot of money, but if you think of the consequences of that, maybe it all adds up over the time to see how things happen there. I mean, many people that do presentations like this will talk about this kind of number of 15%, which is the cost of a project, which is pre-allocated for rework. And I guess if we can start saving some of that money through the cost of the drone implementation, this is very important. You know, I guess the perfect solution here is to take your daily drone data and take your BIM or CAD design drawings, or maybe your scheduled drawing for that day, and simply overlay them. And that way you can make them a little bit maybe transparent as well. And you could visually inspect, or maybe automatically inspect, the difference between the as-built situation and the as-designed or the as-scheduled situation as well. I think there you could see immediately some great savings. Just moving quickly on, I mean, taking the 3D data that we produce, which is basically a point cloud, similar to what you'd expect from a laser scanner if you put a laser scanner on site. These can easily be installed within your BIM or CAD applications. You see the example here is somebody putting the 3D point cloud into Revit, which is kind of useful, but of course, I guess you all know Revit's a design package, so you don't always want to show your as-built data against the design. It's better maybe to use it in things like Synchro or Connect or Solibri, which is really where the construction effort's going in to do some model checking that way. So we can also sort of import this data as IFC into these various other packages. And just to bring the whole thing full circle again, of course, every point in the 3D point cloud, every point in the 3D models also has associated with it the high resolution images which we use to create that 3D model. And of course, we give our customers access to those images. So what we're also having here is a full inspection tool where you can go back, you can select a point on the 3D and access these highly detailed, highly valuable 3D images for yourself and start doing inspection, either during the construction phase itself, maybe during the handover phase, or certainly during the most important part of the phase is the many years worth of operation, where you want to keep this building refurbished and potentially re-maintenanced. I think I'll hand over to Harvey in a minute, because I think one of the key messages from Harvey is that people started using drones in construction mainly as an inspection tool. And I think what's interesting to hear from Harvey, and what we can talk about more later, is the fact that it's not just for inspection, and people have really moved from using a drone for inspecting to using a drone for mapping. I think on that note, Harvey, I'd like to hand over to yourself, and it's with pleasure to introduce Harvey Jessel, who's the Innovation and Technology Manager from Costain. Harvey's going to explain how he started using drones and how that's impacted his values with projects. Harvey, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Julian. Thanks for today. So my name is Harvey Jessel. Currently work for the Costain Group. Been with Costain since 2013. Kind of undertaken many different kind of roles within Costain. But currently, I'm the Innovation and Technology Manager for Costain on the 820 Thames Water framework. Been on that framework since 2016. We've kind of actively been using UAVs with also Pix4D software to create photogrammetry outputs for all our water treatment plants, and it's leaving a reference point, a digital reference point, every time we fly out on a site. I think that's quite important that we have that, because I kind of believe it will be for the next generation in terms of the data set, and it'll be quite valuable to them. So that's why we went on the journey. But we've been working very closely with our client to achieve the process of UAV in construction, and also it includes all the governance that we had to go through. Thames Water probably have a standards 28 document, which we had to relook at that document many times to understand how we're going to comply using UAVs on Thames Water sites. And we came up with quite a robust health and safety process and mechanism. We also use Flight Deck, which all our information is stored, which is through Sky Futures. But further to that was to manage a good display of visibility across all of the Thames Water sites. So, it's getting your governance right, it's getting all the processes, your health and safety, all on to what it should be, so that we can start using UAVs. And also eliminate, I think for us, in the 820 framework, Thames Water, it eliminates putting anyone at risk when carrying out any confined space entry inspection or having someone out on a site. So for us, it's actually a big win that we can actually go on a site, not put anyone at risk, and actually collect that data and then feed it through through Pix4D. Okay. Sorry about that. So just going to quickly talk about how Costain started with drones. So as I mentioned before, my first task was to demonstrate that drones are not toys to project managers, and also in terms of operation team. And that was key for us to kind of show that, yes, it's a drone, and you can probably go out and buy them from Mapcon, etc., so they get classified as toys. But it's trying to get our client Thames Water to understand that the benefits of a drone and what it captures and what we can do with that data set. So we began our journey by simply just taking aerial shots, really, and pictures to obtain site maps. So really quite simple stuff, very much aerial shots that we can start working on. We didn't actually have Pix4D at the time. So then we started to look at loads of other applications, and there's many out there, and we happened to choose Pix4D at the time because it kind of worked for us. And I think for us, it was quite simple to use. So explored what would be the key benefits of having photogrammetry, and having a need of a simple solution that would allow us to deliver. Again, it was around Pix4D, and the software that we were using was really easy to start sharing in terms of our site capture. So that was quite easily done. As you can imagine, many corporate companies have a lot of restrictions on their IT systems, but it was really quite easy and very fast in terms of the interface. We then tested many photogrammetry applications, which we did on that process. So we didn't necessarily just pick Pix4D. We went through many other ones, and the reasons for that is, as I said and explained before, it's very simple for us, and the sharing of the link and the data set and the cloud service, which really wins it for us. And I think the biggest thing is for me is reliability. I can be on a site and actually upload the data from the drone. So I don't necessarily need to be in an office. It can all be done remotely, which I think is a key benefit. And also, the actual kind of, it ticks all the boxes in terms of all the outputs that we're trying to achieve. So again, we chose Pix4D. Okay, so drone applications at Costain. I think I may have got a bit wrong there. Sorry. So I think the biggest thing for us is drone applications and what we're delivering for our client Thames Water. So currently we're doing site progress inspections with aerial images. That's going really well at the moment. Site reconstruction in 3D model, absolutely a #1 at the moment for us. We can then take that model, Atkins can use it, which is our partners, Balfour BT, and there's also MWH, which all of these guys can actually see that model. So it's kind of a sharing process. Thermal image analysis, and that's for leak detection and modeling. So we're on a journey at the moment to look at leak detections on sites, asset inspection to understand the condition of the asset, which is a very key for our client. Is we have approximately nearly 7,890 sites of Thames Water. So it's quite important for us to actually capture those assets and give that back to our client. Photogrammetry, obviously, is a massive key for us. Confined space inspection, which we're using other types of drones, but more than not, we're using that with our Pix4D software to give us a little bit more insight in terms of the site and what it's capturing. The projects in terms of the experience that we currently have is obviously Lockwood Reservoir, which is the wetland trust that we've just recently done. We've done roughly around about 5 or 6 visits to them. We've done Maple Lodge. If any of you guys know any London waste treatment plants, these are the plants that we've covered. Basingstoke, and I'll show you that in a minute in terms of how that's really helped us with the overlay of CAD and Pix4D, Crossness, Rymead, Swindon, and National Grid. We're doing some stuff for National Grid as well on their power lines. Future works, we're going to be doing the new river embankment, some more further work with National Grid, and we've got an additional 55 sites to cover with Thames Water. United Utilities, we're doing some work with them as well. So you can see there's a vast amount of different organisations there that we're doing surveying for. And I think the key one for us is for Thames Water, because of the way the waste treatment plants are. It's very easy for us to capture that data and then put it into the software, which gives us some really key tangible benefits. And I think that's where it comes to. It's very much around those tangible benefits and how those benefits help construction. So we're going to move on, and something I wanted to share was a video that we did with the Wetland Trust and Natural England. For those that don't know that site, it is chaired by Prince Charles, and we were privileged to have some work done there, but at the same token, we needed to understand how we were going to keep an eye on the Crest Road around the embankment. So there's a drone flight that goes each month so that we can keep a track on it. So I'm just going to play the video for you guys so that you guys know the sort of work that we're currently doing. So this is Lockwood Reservoir. So we used the 3D to do the photogrammetry because it was a lot safer of having traditionally a surveying team out there to capture all that information. So we decided to do it via the drone. And as you can see, some of the pictures there, we did incorporate into the DJI app, and also we used Pix4D software on the side. Thermal imaging, we needed to understand in terms of birds and wildlife that was present there. We have a digital center within a Thames Water site where we have all the processing done in a, and all the equipment is kept there. Okay, just some. So this is some of the thermal imaging that we used. As I said before, we're going to be using it in terms of leak detection as well, and also wildlife. We've got many embankments to do, and it's been really successful on our first one. Also, by using the Pix4D software, we're able to give a clear map, 3D image and a map to Balfour Beatty at the time, and now they use that in most of their design work, etc. to go forward again. And I think the biggest thing is it basically stores a reference point, and I think the key benefits for there is, one, it stores a reference point, and second of all, it's in the cloud, and you can track each month on how the site's progressing. Obviously, having a drone out there and doing it each month is showing real benefits of the Crest Road for us. But I think one of the key things that came out of it, you know, it's all great that we can take site pictures and have photogrammetry and 3D mapping, etc. But the key thing for us was around, and it was due to a health and safety survey that we were asked to do. I'm not really sure if you can kind of see, but just over here, we had a bit of a situation where, you know, a member of staff had gone into a trench which should have been at 1.5 meters. But the great thing that with the Pix4D software that we were able to do, we were able to turn it upside down to then have a look what the depth was. And the depth was 2.57. So clearly it showed that the employer was in violation of trying to go into a trench where the trench was, you know, more than 1.5 meters. So again, in terms of the benefits that, you know, that it's being used at, it's even down to health and safety investigations are now being used, which is key, because you only have one pilot and a camera operator, where if you wanted to do an investigation on that site particularly, you'd probably have to get a 5-man crew in there to start looking at it. That not only puts them at risk again, but it's going to take a long time. And where we found by doing surveying via drone for this health and safety survey, proven a lot more swift and swift, and also we got a 3D map out, image out in terms of that site. One of the things I wanted to also highlight in terms of why we chose the software Pix4D was that we could overlay CAD. Now, again, Julian kind of mentioned it was around to do with kind of governance, and it was around also to do with clarifying what assets are on site on that particular site. So we were requested to take a image of this water treatment plant. We then overlaid this image with some CAD that we had, what the actual plan was and what it is now. So you probably won't be able to see this on here too much, but if you go in finer, you'll see some assets that have appeared that weren't on the original plan. So again, that poses a question on why, and was that in the original brief? So again, it's given us a real key benefit, or to the project manager, to understand that we've given him that information to go and obviously speak to the relevant design team to understand why were there more assets when there shouldn't have been. So another key benefit for us there, and that will stay in the cloud. And you know, and I think the benefit again there is that many people can go back there and use that particular site, which currently we have a lot of people looking at that site at the moment. So that was definitely one key benefit for us. And I think as an overall, as a general, I believe as a customer point of view, it's given us some sort of reference point. As I said before, it's given us a digital image, it's given us a digital reference that which stays in a cloud, can be shared, and again can be used for all sorts of different activities on that site. Okay, I think that is all from me. I hope that has helped some people, but you know, if you do require any further information, please have a look at LinkedIn. You can send in a request, and if there's any further discussion, I'm sure Julian will pass on some email addresses, but I'm here happy to help anyone that needs further guidance on the software, and also how we're using Pix4D going forward on Thames Water Framework. So I'll just hand this back over to Julian. But thank you very much for listening.
No, but Harvey, thank you very much for that. It's always interesting to get the insights from the customer on these things. I think that was an excellent explanation to fellow construction industry people listening to this presentation. I'll just summarise. Yes, I won't take very much more of your time. Then we'll open up for questions. Maybe I can just explain how Pix4D's technology is helping with this industry. We have a full workflow at Pix4D, which moves from both capturing the data, processing the data, and the analysis and sharing tools. And I think the important thing, particularly for people in construction, is we have full automation here. So from the actual capture applications that are running on the smartphones and tablets, through to the cloud processing, through to the results being shared on our cloud platforms, it's totally automated. So I mean, this means for the industry that there's no actual drone flying skills required, no photogrammetric skills required. And in fact, you don't even need to have a computer or any software because it all runs in the cloud. So I think one of the things that Harvey was explained there is that you can give anybody a drone and a smartphone application. If they can hit the fly button, they can start collecting data. The data is processed in the cloud and the results are shared immediately with everybody on the cloud platform. So it's a very de-skilled operation, which means that the people doing the drone data capture can actually continue doing their normal work of building buildings and inspecting. The capture application itself, I think, really makes things easy for people in the field. We like the idea that we have the idea that the cloud processing can make the automation, but we also do have a desktop version of the software. So if you really want to do any fine tuning or produce some special deliverables, that's also possible. So for the surveyors that are listening to this presentation, you can certainly do things with changing coordinate systems and altering the accuracy and definition of certain parts of the results, and also produce things like contouring or special DTM, DEM results as well. And the really nice thing about the cloud platform that we have a cloud platform called Pix4D BIM, and this allows us to share the results with anybody. So once the results are published, they're there, they can be accessed through a convenient kind of timeline, and this way any of your colleagues can see the results immediately. They can annotate, they can overlay their CAD drawings. It really allows the sharing of the data to become very easy to collaborate across the organization. And just as a final note, we also have a special data capture solution, which is our crane camera solution. This is actually the subject of our next webinar. But this very, very quickly allows you to actually attach a piece of hardware which Pix4D have developed, and we now sell to the tower crane. And this is basically a drone attached to the tower crane, which allows you to capture data during the normal operation of the crane, and the results are produced automatically for you to share on our software. Maybe I should just conclude by explaining who Pix4D are. A little advert for Pix4D. We're a 6-year-old company. We certainly used to be a startup 6 years ago over here in Lausanne in Switzerland at the Technical University. We've now certainly moved up to a different stage level of company. We have, over 17,000 customers at the moment using our software, so we're certainly scaling up. We're probably the leading solution provider for drone mapping worldwide, and we do more than just construction. So you can see at the bottom of the screen here, we also have applications for mapping and for special applications for agriculture, and also applications working within the sort of 3D modeling environment as well. So you have the email address there, construction@pix4d.com. Please visit the website of www.pix4d.com, where you can find full details of all the things that have been spoken about. And we'll now head over to the question and answer session. So looking at the list of questions that we've got through, so Harvey is still there, I guess. Harvey, the first one's for you, actually. It's about the sort of software that Costain are using to work with point clouds and what sort of deliverables you're producing with those softwares.
Sorry, so the software that we're currently using for point cloud is, the only thing we're using at the moment, as far as I'm aware, is Pix4D. We're getting an accuracy of 25mm accuracy. We started off with 75mm, now we're getting down to 25. But as far as I know, on the Thames Water framework, that's what we're currently using. There is nothing else that we're currently using, which is Pix4D.
Thank you very much. A similar question actually for myself, but I think it's in the same subject, is how the BIM models that we're producing at Pix4D, how they're integrated into the BIM process. So we're not producing BIM models yet at Pix4D. We're producing 3D point clouds, very same results you'd get from a laser scanner, and these can be used within your BIM applications in the same way, using sort of comparison tools, so you can compare between the model and the point cloud. So a future development for Pix4D will be that we start producing IFC models quite soon, maybe towards the middle and end of this year, and these will probably be sort of LOD 100, LOD 200 compatible. Your BIM software. So the idea there would be that you'd have immediate BIM models and be able to produce some comparisons as well. So on to the next question. We have a question here about processing projects on the cloud. So yes, you can process on the cloud and then also download to our desktop solution as well. So you may have seen in maybe I just move back to my workflow diagram. There's a green arrow between the processing between the desktop and the cloud. Certainly you can drop the cloud or desktop. I actually have a full hybrid solution which allows you to share that processing. So you can process on the cloud for convenience and speed, and download the desktop to do some more fine-tuning of your projects. We'll have a solution also about a question when we can measure volume calculations at all, and that can be done with our software, yes. So we have volume calculations capable for the stockpiles and for your earthwork analysis. Again, we also will have a webinar about earthwork in the future where we'll go into detail with one of our customers about how you can do analysis of your site. And we have a question also about how we can share the data using the Pix4D software. And certainly, I mean, I think Harvey probably can validate this response, is that once the data is available on the Pix4D cloud, it can be shared very easily with anyone within the organisation or outside the organisation as well. So you can allow your customers or your subcontractors to annotate and measure.
Yes, I totally agree with Julian. I think for us, it's been absolutely amazing where we can able to share a link with our clients, Thames Water, and also all our JV partners, and not have a problem setting up something on a cloud like OneDrive, for etc. We can actually just send the link over, and they can actually have a look at it and start measuring, which I think is a key, it's a key benefit. And it's quite smooth. It's not what people think it is. It's quite smooth. It's seamless. That's all I have to say to the subject. But it's made a key benefit for us at the moment.
We have literally dozens of questions coming through, and I've probably got time for 2 more. And I'm quickly looking through the list of things that are maybe relevant to the entire audience. Some of the questions you're asking out there are very, very technical, and we will respond to you all with more technical questions about DTMs, DEMs, DSMs, and coordinate translation options. Maybe they're kind of more technical. The one I'll pass over to Harvey actually was the first one for you. How difficult was it for you to convince your management to use drones and drone mapping software?
I think it was pretty much with any other software. I think it's about understanding what the outputs deliver. And I think for us, the health and safety survey that we conducted on our second one kind of convinced the operations team and also the project managers. And now today, I can see project managers that were not against it, but didn't really feel that there was going to be key benefits out of it. Now they're using it as a measuring tool, which is quite surprising that we've managed to convince project managers that this is the way forward now. And further to that, I think it's having that digital reference point, and I think that's what's really convinced them that they can get access to it anytime they want, anywhere around the world. They can share it with any subcontractor, and I think that's where it's really one for us. Otherwise, I don't believe if we didn't have it, I think it'd be very difficult for us to continue flying on Thames Water sites. But again, it's down to the sharing, and I think it's down to webinars, and it's down to presentation of what it actually can do. So yes, it was tough at the beginning, but it's proven to be very, very useful now.
Interesting. Thank you, Harvey. I think the final question I'll take myself, we've had a few people asking what Pix4D's plans are regarding the use of the point clouds themselves that were generated from our software. So one of the things you may have understood if you look at the website of Pix4D is we started already doing point cloud classification. This is the idea that we can actually specify and classify the point cloud into things like vegetation and buildings and these kind of things. So the value there for you is if you're doing a DTM of a hillside and you want to remove the vegetation, that can be done automatically in our processing to take away that sort of very labour-intensive part of the processing where you have to identify the trees or maybe the cars on a road and these sort of things, so you can remove vehicles automatically. This is already happening. We've already got sort of machine learning, artificial intelligence routines which are teaching our software how to do classification better. For construction, we also started to classify construction sites so you can identify the formwork and the concrete slabs and the different parts this way. And I've already touched on, in the future, we'll be expanding this into doing some sort of very basic and then more advanced, maybe LED 100, 200 IFC ones. So for the rest of you asking questions, thank you very much. We've had a huge response to this webinar. Over 300 people have attended today, and we've got dozens of questions. So that'll keep me busy for the rest of the afternoon answering those questions. Let me just mention where you can meet Pix4D next. We will be attending World of Concrete in Las Vegas next week, so I'll be there. And we have also a training course for the industry, which if you're joining from the US, by a chance, you can actually join this training course. We're providing some hands-on training on how to use drones in construction. And the next time I'll be in Europe at a show will be at the Newcastle event, BIM Show Live. And I believe Harvey will be there as well, so there's a good opportunity to meet us both. And we have a booth and a presentation there. And then, of course, we're at Intermat in Paris in April. This is the biggest European construction show this year. And we have a booth there as well, so you'll be able to meet us at any of these points. Please keep in touch, construction at Pix4D, website www.pix4d.com. Thank you again, Harvey, and thank you all for listening.